Russia is scrambling to bring COVID-19 under control. More than 10,000 new cases of the virus have been reported in just the past 24 hours. And in Moscow, there are concerns that as many as 1 in 50 people may be infected. Freelance reporter Julia Chapman is there, and she has the latest on the situation.
For the first time, Russia has reported more than 10,000 cases in the past day. That's brought its total to above 134,000 cases of coronavirus, making it the 7th largest outbreak in the world. And Moscow is the center of that outbreak. The capital accounts for more than half of those cases, meaning here in Moscow there are more coronavirus infections than in all of Canada. And Russian officials say that the number of cases is so high because they've been testing so widely. They say that more than 4 million tests have been carried out, but there has been some concern about the accuracy of those tests. There have been reports about false negatives, and Moscow Mayor Sergei Sobyanin, who is also the head of Russia's coronavirus task force, says that around half of patients in hospital in Moscow in a serious condition with coronavirus symptoms have tested negative for coronavirus more than once, which is really raising big questions as to how accurate the testing is in Russia.
We're also hearing concerns about conditions in the hospitals there. How safe, or should we say maybe how dangerous is it for patients and doctors? What can you tell us about that, Julia?
Well, it's a mixed picture depending on where you're looking. Here in Moscow, of course, the hospitals are well funded and relatively well equipped, although there have still been reports of shortages of personal protective equipment. We've spoken to some doctors in Moscow and the Moscow region that says there just simply wasn't enough preparation. And even President Vladimir Putin has admitted that although the country has ramped up production on personal protective equipment, there still is a shortage, and he's calling for that to be rectified as quickly as possible. But outside of Moscow, we've seen a number of outbreaks at hospitals which are quickly becoming vectors for spreading the disease itself. They've had to be quarantined, and there have been a rising number of doctors being infected. There are no official figures yet, but doctors have started creating their own unofficial tally of the number of medical workers who have allegedly died since the start of this outbreak, and that number currently sits around 80.
Let's talk about the political implications around all of this, in particular for Vladimir Putin.
It's a difficult challenge for any world leader, not least President Vladimir Putin, and he's seen in a recent poll by a state-backed pollster that trust levels in President Putin have fallen to a 14-year low. So there's certainly concerns among the Russian population about how the government has handled this outbreak. In terms of economic support for individuals and businesses, there are criticisms that the government simply hasn't gone far enough. There have been some measures announced, but that doesn't amount to very much money per person, and although the restrictions on the lockdown vary drastically from region to region, huge numbers of Russians are out of work. The Ministry of Labor says that unemployment could more than double as a result of this outbreak. President Putin has called on the cabinet to extend those support measures for individuals and businesses, but it's a very difficult time for the country. They've already had to push back a constitutional referendum that would keep Vladimir Putin, or could keep Vladimir Putin, in power for an additional 12 years, and there are suggestions now that that could be pushed back even further in order to allow those trust levels to recover.